Let's go ahead and look at our first article here. And I want to talk about this. The former Joint Chief, General Mark Milley, and he was defending teaching critical race theory at West Point. And if you watch this, especially the House hearing on this, where he was coming and he was speaking, you can tell that he gets a little bit frustrated, like, how dare anybody in Congress? And specifically, he was going after Matt Gaetz, but he was also going after Mike Waltz. Mike Waltz is a former Green Beret. I knew Mike before he was ever in politics. He's now the national security advisor for Trump. And he was going after both of these guys because Mike Waltz and Matt Gaetz were bringing up some pretty important questions about why are you giving, you're not just teaching critical theory as, you know, maybe because he talked about, he goes, well, I've read Marx, I've read Lenin. That doesn't mean I'm a communist. Okay, I'm old enough to remember that the way we read Marx and Lenin, the way that we talked about communism within military culture was not, well, this is an equally valid viewpoint. It was, here's the bad guys, right? That's not how they were talking about critical theory. But General Milley gets up here. And again, I want to point something out. General Milley has an SF tab. You look at General Milley like, oh my gosh, second award of Combat Infantryman's Badge, Special Forces tab, Ranger tab. General Milley is literally the only Green Beret I know of where I can go into our social media chats where you can only be a member of those chat if you're an SF guy, if you're a tabbed guy. And I would ask, does anybody know this guy from when he actually served in SF? I couldn't find one guy to actually defend him. Now, I've had other Green Berets I didn't particularly like. That somebody would always come on and say, hey, look, regardless of what he's like now, he was a really good team leader, or he was a good team sergeant, or he was a great guy when he was a senior Bravo, or whatever it was. Not with this guy. I couldn't find one guy to defend General Milley. They all looked at him as a political climber, even when he was a captain in SF. Now, maybe someone else feels differently about him, but I got to tell you right now, I am very frustrated by a guy that's wearing all of that is going up there, that doesn't have the guts to say, hey, President Biden, I don't think this is the best policies. I don't think these are the things that we should be pushing. But instead, he spent his time saying, well, I want to understand white rage. I want to understand, you know, what caused all these people to storm the Capitol on January 6th. Fair enough. I don't mind understanding critical theory, but he defended it as, well, this is a legal theory that came out of Harvard. Of course, we should be properly understanding it. Critical theory is completely antithetical to the sort of constitutional system that we have within the United States, a system which has been designed not only around representative government, but limited representative government, which also values property rights, individual liberty, self-determination, personal responsibility. Go read critical theory and tell me that any of that is valued within that particular system. And they weren't going through and just analyzing this as one theory among many. No, they were having very, very specific speakers come in who were advocates of critical race theory and critical theory in general, teaching this at West Point. And so for General Milley to say that this is just another robust analysis that we're conducting of another theory out there. No, it wasn't, General Milley, and you know it. And someone tell me how it's good for the good order and discipline of the military to essentially look at all of your cadets out there, the future, the primary officer corps of the United States military, and say, yeah, we're going to spend a lot of time elevating a theory which essentially says that all of you are inherently racist based off of your skin color, and you fall into one of two categories, oppressor or oppressed, and you fall into those categories based off of your skin color. Yeah, that sounds like a real good theory to be promoting within a military.
It was good for him.
Where you're going to have to go out and conduct military operations and depend on the person to your right or your left, not based off of superficial characteristics such as skin color, but based off of competence, capability, and character. I'm so glad that General Milley was so concerned about West Point cadets being exposed to critical race theory. I'm so glad we were concerned about that rather than, I don't know, the necessary skill sets and capabilities to manage the withdrawal from Afghanistan so it didn't happen in a way to where we lost a bunch of people, lost a bunch of allies, and handed over billions of dollars worth of military equipment to the Taliban. So maybe if his dumb ass wasn't so focused on understanding white rage and a little bit more focused on the proper good order and discipline of the United States military, maybe if he had actually had the courage to stand up to the president and say, Mr. President, if you're going to conduct this in such a manner, we're going to lose people, we're going to lose allies, we're going to arm our enemies. And if you're going to conduct it that way, Mr. President, I cannot continue to stay within this position. But that would have included something called self-sacrifice, or what we call in the military selfless service, which happens to be a core Army value. But no, we couldn't rely on General Milley. No. More importantly, the people that were serving overseas in a position of danger couldn't rely on General Milley to do his job because he had his head so far up the woke asses of the people that were instituting policies like this that people died as a result. And yeah, I'm a little bent out of shape about it. Anyways, he's not there anymore, thank God. Because it would be horrifying for me to send my son off into the military to have to serve under somebody like that. But if anybody wants a good example of the sort of crap that was going through the United States military under the Biden administration, that's a good example of it. But it gets worse. It gets worse. As late as, let's go to the next article here. As late as 2024, West Point accused of going woke after suddenly dropping duty honor country from the mission statement. Now, they go on to explain that no, duty honor country is still a component of what we teach at West Point. It's still all over here. But as we write our mission statement, we had to incorporate the Army values. We incorporated other things. And we've done this 9 other times in West Point's history. So this is not unique. No, it is unique. It is unique. I love it when they all jump to try to say, no, we're just doing a reevaluation based off of, reassessments of what our overall mission is and our core component. One of the things that is so important about West Point is that it's been around for over 200 years. 1802 was when West Point became the official United States Military Academy. And there have been certain components about that have remained amazingly consistent over time. And it's one of the things that makes West Point the premier U.S. military academy in the world, or one of the premier military academies in the world. And so when you start to change, when you start to see them change things, and they immediately come out, no, nobody's doing that. We're just reassessing based off of, modern assessments of our needs and our capabilities and what our core functions are. And so no, duty honor. Anytime they change something, which has been a core fundamental component of an institution, and they tell you they're not, no, it's no big deal. It's a big deal. Mm-hmm. It's a big deal. Because what is the 4-step process every single time the woke left does this? That's not happening. Why do you care if it's happening? Okay, it's happening, but it's actually a good thing. And then finally, if you don't like what's happening, you're a racist, sexist bigot. Those are the 4 steps every single time. And so for any of the people that wanted to try to change this is removing the duty honor country. You may look at this and go, what's the big deal, Nick? Because it has been such a fundamental element, a fundamental core component of the military academy, that when you start messing with things like that, it is almost never benign. It's almost never a casual oversight. It's almost never just a slight reassessment of priorities. It almost always signals something bigger.